Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on Nick Heyward's 1983 debut album called North of a Miracle. Of course, Nick Heyward was then known for being the lead singer of Haircut 100, which had a string of hits off their one and only album in 1982. They had Love Plus One and Boy Meets Girl, which have the 45s right here on Arista Records back in the day. Um, my older sister was about 6.5 years older than me, and she was very influential in giving me a good foundation of synth pop and new wave music in the early '80s. I must have been 5 or 6, and she was 11 or 12, and she was buying a lot of different really good synth pop that really laid a good foundation. By the time I was like 10 or 11, I felt like I was a seasoned listener, to synth pop and new wave, and I was able to kind of pick from her collection, which music I was sort of gonna eventually go, and she laid a really good foundation for me with a lot of good synth pop music, everything from Smiths to The Cure to Depeche Mode to other styles of music, and there was a lot of clever and good synth pop in there as well, and Haircut 100 and Nick Heyward were certainly one of the ones in there that I fondly remember when I was a kid listening to. And so a couple years ago, she sent me all of her cassettes and some of her 45s, and here they are. So I thought since I was doing the channel, I might pick up North of a Miracle that she gave me the cassette and review it for fun. And yeah, this album came out in 1983, and it's a fairly consistent album that has some good moments for being his first solo album. I feel like there's some good catchy songs on here, and the highs on here are unfortunately equaled by some lackluster tracks that are fairly average on here. But I think of the probably the four strongest tracks on here that I still really enjoy, and it was kind of a trip down memory lane, and I forgot that "Whistle Down the Wind" was on 16 Candles, the movie. I'm still kind of thinking of it was on that movie, but I think I know it was in a John Hughes movie. I'm kind of thinking it was that movie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was in 16 Candles, and that's one of the better tracks on here. I really like "Blue Hat for a Blue Day" as well, and also "On a Sunday." I really like the harmony, the piano, and the melody on that track as well. Um, and then also the Day It Rained Forever is my favorite track on here. Can't knock that chorus. The harmony, the melody, kind of croons on there and does a pretty good job singing on there as well. I really enjoy that track. Um, as far as maybe the opportunities or constructive criticism, the production is okay. It's kind of verging on that lack of dynamics 1982-83 time where it just seems like a lot of production in those years were just not very dynamic and very well rounded. It almost sounds like the album's mono, and some of the sounds are a little bit louder than others. It could be mixed probably a little bit better. Some are kind of tucked away a little bit too low, like the bass is really kind of low in the mix on the songs, and Nick is a strong singer. I think he's a um, well balanced singer. There's a good amount of different instruments in here, and they're played well. Even a xylophone on here, which of course, if you know Love Plus One, that was kind of the hook of the song and made that song so unique. Um, when I run through the tracks, there's 10 tracks on here. When It Started to Begin is the first track. I think it's an okay song, 1.5 stars. I think Blue Hat for a Blue Day is tied for my favorite. I think it's a very good song. Got 3.25 stars out of 5. To Make It True, 2.25 stars. On a Sunday, really like the harmony on here, piano, and also the melody. I give it 3 stars. Club Boy at Sea, 1.25 stars. It's okay. Whistle Down the Wind, 2 3/4 stars, close to being very good. Take That Situation, 2 stars. Track number 8, A Kick of Love, I liked a little bit better, 2.5 stars. And then The Day It Rained Forever, 3 1/4 stars. Really like this, my favorite track on here if I had to pick one. And then it ends on a okay song, Atlantic Monday. I give it 1.5 stars. So overall, 22 3/4 stars divided by 10. That gives it roughly on my scale, that makes it roughly a 55, somewhere around there. I give it a couple extra points, and I give it a 57 out of 100. So I think it's a pretty good album. That's kind of roughly my overall thoughts on the album. It's a fairly consistent album that has its moments for sure, and a solid debut album. But again, some of the highs are sort of equaled by lackluster, fairly average tracks, and but I think it's an enjoyable, fairly charming debut album from a synth pop, artist. Has some good harmonies, some good melodies, some good chorus, and I think Nick Heyward overall is a good singer. Maybe a little bit more depth on here, and I would see it being a stronger album, but still, overall, I think it's got some charm to it, and fairly decent album for sure. It's interesting they have the style on this album is smooth jazz, but probably more so like a smooth rock / synth pop. I would imagine. I don't know if there really anything on here is really jazzy, but that's the way they were kind of describing it. Excuse me, when I was reviewing the album, but yeah, 57 over 100, pretty good album. Nick Heyward's 1983 album, North of a Miracle. Curious if you have any thoughts on the album, and what's your overall opinion of Nick Heyward or Love Plus One, or excuse me, Haircut 100. See if you had any overall thoughts on their music. Is there any other Nick Heyward album I should review? This is the only album that I ever remember hearing anything off of, and this was unfortunately his one successful album, and then there was a little bit of success on the other albums, but not as much as this album. And for me, he's always kind of, even though I knew he went solo, he's always kind of been tied to Haircut 100 because of the success of those couple early singles, especially as much as they were played on MTV back in the day. Just it was hard not to know these songs from if you had MTV back in the day. In those early years, they just played those songs all the time, and I have fond memories of those songs. And I always play those songs in retro 80s new wave set lists. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts on North of a Miracle. 57 out of 100. Good album. All right, thanks much.